Welcome back, villagers. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell if you haven't already for parenting tips. Are you wondering how to transition from bottle to delicious baby food? How do you know if your baby's ready? And what about when to feed them? Well, I can answer all those questions for you. Other questions about what to expect when introducing solids and how to manage mealtime are in a second video. I just couldn't fit it all here. I'm Jade, and this is my village. Giving babies their first food has to be one of the most exciting things ever. I just love watching them discover all these new tastes and textures. Like, welcome to a world of deliciousness. Your tongue will be so happy. And you get to take them to that next level with these tips, of course. But is it time to start feeding your little angel real foods? Are they ready? The AAP recommends giving them solids between 4 and 6 months, but not before. So can baby sit up and hold up their head? Is she curious about what other people are eating? Is the tongue thrust reflex gone? You can test that by just thinning a little baby oatmeal or cereal with their milk, put a little teeny bit on their mouth, with your finger, a little spoon. If they keep pushing the food out with their tongue, then not quite ready to eat solids yet. And does baby still seem hungry after drinking a whole day's milk? Well, if they are not doing these things, then you'll want to wait until they are. It's not necessary to push solids onto a baby. Doing that could actually cause food fights down the road. Introducing solids, it's really more about giving that little angel just practice chewing and swallowing, more of that than it is about sustenance. And they can get all the nutrients that they need from milk actually during the first 6 months of their life. And starting too early could mean that their digestive system doesn't have the right enzymes to process the solid food. They might feel pushed into eating and then reject the food down the road because they feel a bit traumatized from that earlier experience. But waiting too long, like 9 months, that's not good either. Older babies, they might not be happy about putting in all the work it takes to figure out the whole chewing and swallowing thing. They will be more interested in the easy milk diet since it's become a hard and fast habit by that point. And taste preferences will likely be harder to change at that point too. Now, when should we feed them? They should be drinking milk when they wake up, in between meals, and before bed. Of course, all babies are different, so think about their current habits too. If you think your little food lover would drink an entire bottle before a meal, then give them some food first so that that little tummy isn't just full of milk, leaving no room for food. And if you think he'll just sip the bottle and then be super excited about the food, then do the opposite. And feed them when they're happy and alert, not when they're tired and bound to be cranky about everything. At this age, they should be getting 20 to 28 ounces of milk total per day every 3 or 4 hours. But an older baby, like 9 to 12 months, should be getting less milk in their diet and more solids. So feed them 16 to 24 ounces of formula a day every 4 or 5 hours. And when they're between 4 and 6 months old, you can give 1 or 2 small meals a day, probably morning and evening to start with, and between 7 and 9 months, they'll likely become more excited about sitting down to eat. That's when it's a good idea to have that 3 routine meals a day. The idea is to get them used to eating meals on schedule, not to force the food on them. And by the time they turn 1, they should be eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack in between each meal. But what do we feed them? Well, the idea is to give them a variety of foods. Get them used to lots of different flavors. Most parents will start with an iron-fortified cereal because the amount of iron that the baby has actually drops after birth, like brown rice, whole grain oats. You just mix that with some of their milk, make it creamy. Don't add any fruits for a while though. We don't want baby thinking all food is sweet, I guess. And anyway, you want to introduce only one food at a time. Although there's honestly no research that says giving your baby sweet foods first will give them a preference for sweet foods later. And this is just a great first meal and easy to do every day, the oats. You might want to add a veggie or a fruit for lunch or dinner. All food should be super smooth and thin and liquidy though. You can thicken them as they get used to the super thin texture. I made my own food just because it's easy, cheap, I can control what's in it, but if you do that, make sure you strain it and thin it with liquid if needed, and don't add salt or sugar. These new foods are amazing and different just the way they are. Later on though, around 6 or 7 months, baby will be able to have their purees a bit thicker. And for their first veggies, it's good to start with something yellow or orange like carrots and sweet potatoes because they have a milder flavor than the green vegetables. Good fruit options are applesauce, bananas, pears. They're easily digested. Avocados are great superfood to try. It's already mushy, like already made. And eventually you can introduce small amounts of protein, meats, eggs, tofu, cheese. By 8 months old, pasta and tofu could be fun. Or whole milk, yogurts, and cheese. And as soon as your child's able, probably around 9 months, you can give them more finger foods like soft bananas, cooked carrots, or sweet potatoes. And their iron dips around that age also. So try some pureed or minced meats. And how much should you give them anyway? At 4 to 6 months old, 2 to 4 tablespoons is enough. 7 to 12 months, their stomachs are about the size of their fist, and it can be served warm, room temperature, cold, however they're taking it. You might be concerned about gagging also. It's likely to happen, and it's normal. They could be doing that because the food was pushed too far back into their mouths, or maybe there's just too much food in there. So to prevent that, just give smaller amounts, make sure they're sitting up straight in their chair, and gagging is not the same as choking. So they can still cough, talk, and breathe when gagging, but not when choking. There's a difference. There's also another method you might have heard of called baby-led weaning. That's just where they eat long, soft, solid pieces of food, but we'll have to cover that in another video. So in a nutshell, don't be afraid to get messy, a controlled mess though, not throwing food against the wall. Feeding them is so fun. At least babies are picky like toddlers, right? Remember to bring your patience, your perseverance to the high chair table, and you'll be just fine. Now share this video with everyone that's a part of a child's life. Share your own tips in the comments. Let me know if you have questions or struggles. Now hit that subscribe button and the bell for more great parenting tips. And you can go ahead and watch my next video.